Hey, I'm Zach Clausen, and today I want to present to you some of the barriers that come with physical activity in regards to the phys ed class and students' barriers to attending the class. It's of no surprise today that there's a large amount of students that don't like phys ed class and reject it. They reject even the idea of phys ed class. Our society in general is very sedentary. We don't have to hunt anymore. We don't have to gather. We don't have to go out for supplies. We don't have to fight to survive. Most importantly, we don't have to stay in shape to survive anymore. All classes today are all very sedentary. You don't do a whole lot of moving in them. You sit down at your desk, you do your work, you get through your period, you go to your next class where you do the exact same thing. Well, aside from classes like drama or other performance arts like dancing or anything of that nature, students spend most of the time in the classroom seated, not moving. And then when they're off school, they go home and they retreat to the couch to watch TV or play video games. I know I did. Or to go to their computers, sit at a desk, sit very hunched over, unmoving. This is just the type of society we live in. This is not all students, but this is a large majority. Now, it's not entirely the students' fault that this is the way our society is, because they probably are just doing exactly what their parents do, or they're doing exactly what their friends do, or they go to their friend's house and they see that their friend's family is sitting around and then they just sit around on couches there too. It's just seen as a norm. So when you take that very sedentary type of student out of a sedentary lifestyle, all the classrooms are sedentary, and you put them in an environment where they're no longer sedentary and they're moving. The student has to completely change their mindset. They've got to completely rewire what they got going on. Because you got to understand that, if a kid is they're driving to school, they're sitting in class all day, they get driven home, they sit all day, they don't do a whole lot of moving. So gym class is a huge shock to the nervous system. It's just, all of a sudden the heart's pumping and the blood's flowing, and this is a completely different environment for the student. So it's not so much as just going to gym class and having to move around, or the gym teacher, all they have to do is get the kids to play a game and then they go on to the next class. It's not quite that simple. There's a lot of barriers the students have to overcome before they accept the fact that they are going somewhere where they're going to be moving. In gym class, they have to sweat, they've got to move, they've got to run, they've got to twist and throw and do all these different movements, all of which you don't do in a classroom. So it's not even as simple as just moving. It's just a lot of motor skills that the student has to now tap into. Now, there are a lot of students that love gym class and they can't wait for gym class. They sit all day in their seat vibrating, and they can't wait to go to a gym where they can just move around and be free and get all that pent-up energy out. Not all students hate gym class and detest gym class. That's not what this video is about. This video is about the fact that there are kinesthetic learners, kids that love gym class, they can't wait to be there, and then there's the polar opposite of those kids, which is fine, that's just how they are, but they don't want to be moving around. There's a lot of things that they have to get over before they're willing to participate in gym class. Here are some of the barriers that students face in regards to phys ed. The first barrier I want to talk about, and probably the most common barrier, is forgetting to bring your gym clothes to gym class, or neglecting to bring your gym clothes to gym class and saying you forgot to bring them. This immediately sets the students up for failure in phys ed. Students will beg and plead to let them participate without gym clothes, or to not make them participate at all. They'll try to convince you, the teacher, that they do not need gym clothes to participate in gym class. Now, it might be a matter of the students just feeling self-conscious in gym clothes. Gym clothes require more mobility, so you have more skin exposed. A lot of students, they dress very baggy. This is a kind of a developmental stage, so they're trying to remain hidden. So this could be a self-conscious issue, a confidence barrier, or it could be that the students just don't like the way that athletic gear or athletic wear looks, especially junior high and high school. Fashion is a big deal, right? And not everyone likes the look of gym clothes and a gym shirt. They would rather wear sweatpants and Uggs, or whatever the case may be. Fashion, I think, does place a factor, because students know what makes them look good. And when they're in gym class and they can't wear the thing that they know makes them look good, they're not going to want to wear it, right? They're going to continue to forget the gym clothes. They're going to continue to not bring it, because how they move and how successful they are in gym class, none of that matters if they don't feel comfortable in what they're wearing, or they are worried about what other students think about them. So not bringing gym clothes or forgetting your gym clothes is probably the first and the biggest barrier that students face. So those are the reasons students might forget their gym clothes or not bring them, but here are the reasons why not having your gym clothes for gym class is a problem. Number one, students lose their range of motion and ability to function correctly. What you wear impacts the type of movement you're going to be doing. If you're wearing tight jeans or a tight shirt, your body is going to resist very flexible movements because it's adapting to the type of clothing you're wearing. So it's important that students bring athletic type, sweatpants or shorts or something of that nature, things that bend and stretch, yoga pants, whatever it is that the students want to wear. It has to be able to allow the student to move in the way that is required of them. If you're wearing a super tight shirt and it kind of goes all the way down your arm and you're doing an activity where you have to bend your arm a lot, but your shirt is restraining the elbow from bending, then you're not going to be very successful in that gym class. Problem number two, gym clothes are the materials that you need for gym class. It really is just as simple as that. You wouldn't forget to bring a pencil or writing supplies to a math class. You wouldn't forget to bring your art supplies to an art class. You wouldn't forget to bring an instrument to your band class. Not having the equipment you need for the class that you're teaching it doesn't make any sense. You need the certain supplies to perform the certain tasks for certain classes. So if you don't have your phys ed clothing for your phys ed class, then how are you expected to be able to perform the movements required of you? So even if a student forgets to bring their gym clothes and the teacher lets it go and they let the students do what they want in their gym clothes, the student swears they're going to participate. If they're in restraining clothing, they're just not going to have the motivation to even perform any kind of physical activity. Even if they mentally want to, their body's already restrained. So it doesn't take very long before their mind is beaten by their body and they decide that they don't want to do anything at all. So from maybe a light jog, it kind of turns into a walk and then to a sit. So here's the solution to those problems. Make your rules very clear at the beginning of the year as to what's expected of the students. If in that first class, you make it very clear as a phys ed teacher why wearing phys ed clothes is important, not just that they have to for a gym class, but why it's important. If the students can wrap their heads around why it's fundamentally important, it might be easier for them to bring it, even if they don't want to. This can save you from daily reminders of the same students or students who don't have their gym clothes with them and always having to tell them. Because the first thing that the student says to you as a teacher is, why? Why should I? Why should I bother? So if you can tell them, well, it's exactly what I explained at the beginning of the year. You need them for this, this, and this. So that also plays a role for you as the phys ed teacher to understand why gym clothes are important so that you can tell the students with confidence. Solution number two, have a spare set of gym clothes with you in your office for both men and women. So even if the students forget, you can have a spare pair of gym shorts with an elastic so they kind of fit to multi-sizes, maybe have a few different sizes. Make sure you have something to accommodate every student so there isn't a student who won't be able to participate in gym class because of a lack of gym clothes. The next barrier I wanted to talk about was cell phones. We live in an era where cell phones are owned by pretty much everybody, especially by junior high, grade 7. It's pretty common that the student will have a cell phone, and this ranges all the way up to grade 12. Even younger than grade 7, I've seen in some cases. Having cell phones with them in gym class is a huge problem. This is why. Problem number one, the student is distracted. This is a pretty obvious answer. This applies to every other class. Phys ed is no exception. If a student has a phone with them, they're not engaged in what's going on in the class. Now in a math class, if a student is working on their math and they have their cell phone with them, every once in a while they check a text, they can still kind of engage in what they're doing. That's not to say having a cell phone is okay in other classes, but it's less destructive to the student's ability in that class. When they're in phys ed class and they're moving around and they stop to do a cell phone, they've stopped. Their heart rate's going down and they're gonna have to get the heart rate back up again to meet the level of where the rest of the class is at. Or worst case scenario, they're sitting on a bench on the side of the gym on their phones. This is so bad for the student's ability to succeed in the class. And there's so many instances I've seen students who are on their phones take a ball right to the head and they look up and they are mad because someone hit them in the head with a ball. But that might not have happened if they didn't have their cell phones with them. That's okay in a situation of like a dodgeball game where they're foam balls, but if you have like solid basketballs flying around hitting kids who aren't looking, that can be a safety issue. The second problem is that they are remaining sedentary. They aren't moving, like I mentioned earlier. They're now distracted and they're not moving. So at that point, they're taking a 0 in the class because they're not participating. They're not even engaged in anything that's going on. The most important thing is that they're not learning. They're not learning motor skills. They're not learning to work as a team. They're not learning social skills with other students. They're not learning anything. This is a matter of mental learning and body learning, nervous system learning, and they're getting 0 of everything if they're on their phone. Here are some possible solutions to the cell phone problem. Just like the gym clothes, you're going to want to make your rules clear at the beginning of the year. What is expected of the students in terms of cell phones and how much of it is allowed? The answer is probably 0% cell phone is allowed. But if it's very clear to the students that cell phones aren't allowed by the beginning of the year, it can save you from those daily reminders. You might have to make them anyway, which is good. It's not a battle that you should give up on as a teacher, but it's good that if you have that backing you, that foundation that you laid out in the first class. Solution number 2, if a student has a cell phone, you make sure they know in your expectations listed out for them in the first class that if a student has their cell phone on them, it goes in your office. Giving the students the choice rather demanding them. Like, they can have their cell phone with them in their bag or even in their pocket if they're not going to use it. It's not ideal, but it's kind of giving the students a bit of power. So you're giving them the option, like you can put it in your own bag, you can have it on you, you just can't check it. Maybe they're more comfortable with that. But if I do see you with the phone, it's got to go in my office type of deal. If the students are aware of the consequences, they'll be less likely to break the rules. Now, the next set of barriers I want to talk about is attitudes. Now, attitudes are not just from the student, they're from the teacher and from the school system itself. How an individual's attitude is going into anything, or the attitude that's placed upon them, makes a huge difference in how they're going to handle certain situations. So the first attitude I want to talk about is the student's attitude. The biggest problem with student attitude is not taking phys ed class seriously. They think of phys ed class as less than the other class. They think of it as a free class, a blow-off class, a write-off class, whatever you want to call it. A class that they don't have to take it seriously. They just kind of show up and leave. If they don't show up, oh well. Now, this attitude is probably from the fact that, again, there's no homework, there's no written assignments, there's no lectures. Maybe there's a bit of information given out at the beginning of every class, but there's no notes to be taken. They're not going to miss out on pamphlets for the most part, anything like that. And there's no need to memorize and recall information like there is in pretty much every other class. So this already sets phys ed apart from everything else. There's something that students don't understand about memory recall, and that it works for the brain, but it also works for the rest of the body. Your body does recall information and memory. It just does it in a different way. That type of memory is known as muscle memory. The problem with students not taking phys ed seriously isn't necessarily their fault. They just haven't learned yet why physical activity or physical education is important to them. Maybe their parents think phys ed class is useless, or their grandparents never had to take phys ed, so the parents of the students already think that it's useless, and now the students have to deal with that mindset being forced upon them. And maybe the students have siblings that are a few years older than them and they didn't have to take gym class, or they hated gym class, so that's now being put on the student. Maybe the student's friends don't like gym class, and that's a lot of influence against phys ed class. Here are 2 possible solutions to the mental barriers the students may have against the phys ed program. First solution is, again, to make sure the students understand what the expectations are at the beginning of the year. And while you're doing that, maybe explain to the students why phys ed is important, so the students actually understand why they have to come to gym class. There's a lot of students that they wonder about other classes. Students kind of discuss, why do we need to know this? We'll never need to use this again. With division or different types of problem solving. It's the same way with phys ed class. Students don't understand why they have to be there. So if you can help them understand, maybe in the first class, maybe take a bit of time to just explain to them. They don't have to bring their gym clothes for the first class. You just kind of talk to them like, hey, this is phys ed class. This is what we do here. This is why phys ed is important. And the students don't have to wonder every day. And secondly, maybe in your gymnasium, you can put up a poster on the wall that has a list of all the expectations and rules. You can refer to it as the daily expectations poster, and maybe just a bit of information as to all the benefits that come with phys ed, and why it's good to learn all these things, and how it's going to benefit the students for their future. Who knows, this can even create a ripple effect where the students tell their friends and their parents, and can make a big difference in how, in general, our society views phys ed class.
Birds will never hurt him, okay? Steen, listen to me right now. If that guy gets past you, I'm gonna cut your body in half with the edge of a coin, okay? It can be done. I saw it on CSI New York.
The second attitude I want to talk about is the teacher's attitude. Believe it or not, the teacher has a lot of influence on whether or not the students want to do what they're supposed to do. It can make a big difference in giving the students motivation to be in the class if they like the teacher, or the teacher makes them feel comfortable doing physical activity. It all plays a big part in the student's mindset for, am I going to do anything today, or am I even going to show up today? Here are a few problems that teachers do that can be hard for the students. The first one is that the teachers are too hard on the student. They use too much discipline, too much aggressiveness when trying to get the kids to do things, demanding kids do what you tell them to do. Now, being too hard on them could be not helping the students understand your expectations, but demanding that they follow your expectations. A teacher should be trying to get a kid engaged in physical activity, not punishing them because they're running too slow. You have to understand that all students work at a different level. Everyone's at a different physical level, and the more you yell and scream, it's not going to make a difference. If someone's body type is the way it is, it's not going to change. The second problem is the complete opposite of that, and that is that the teacher is too relaxed. They let too much slide. They have rules and they just let them go. Every day that you let a student get by doing what they want on their phone, or letting them kind of push you around with how much activity they're going to do, other students see that and they all start to think that's okay. And the more relaxed you are, the more problems you're going to have in your classroom, because students are going to take advantage of your kindness. You can't be too relaxed on the rules. You have to find that happy medium, that middle place where you're not too angry or too relaxed. And the last problem is that teachers aren't confident in their own rules, the own rules that they made. They don't really understand themselves what their role is, and they're just not confident enough in forcing them. They might face that dilemma of, should I bother getting these kids to participate? So I don't know if it's my place to force them. This is kind of a dilemma that gym teachers face when they're not confident in their own rules and role as a phys ed teacher, and how confident the teacher themselves is makes a big difference in how they execute in the gym class. Here are two possible solutions to those attitude problems. The first solution is that teacher understands their role, what their job is, and how they can help the students learn and grow. Then they can help the students understand that that's their role, and they do the things that they do because that's what they have to do, and that's their role as a phys ed teacher. If they understand that, then they can explain that and execute. And next is just explaining to the students why these certain rules are crucial to phys ed. Next up I want to talk about is the attitude of the school system and our society itself.
But anyway, I just decided to give up on myself and become a teacher, because those that can't do, teach. And those that can't teach gym.
Everyone's heard that line before, right? Or something similar to it. This comes from, again, a lack of seriousness towards the phys ed system, a lack of understanding to the phys ed system, and a lack of respect for the phys ed system. Take a school. Now imagine all the teachers in that school. Now imagine all the teachers within that school who understand the benefits of health and exercise, fitness, and the benefits that come with it. It might be one or two of all the teachers in the school. Maybe it's just the gym teachers and a couple other ones who know. But if you have teachers in the school that make jokes about gym class or jokes about the gym teacher and say, it's just gym, that's going to have a huge influence on the students. And that impacts our culture and our society as a whole. Why is phys ed even needed in school? Originally, phys ed class was required. It was life or death. The first recordings of a phys ed class actually date back to ancient Sparta. But it made sense then. That was a time of survival of the fittest. In today's society, though, that isn't the case anymore. We don't have a grade 7 martial arts class followed by grade 7 strength and conditioning class. We don't have that in our school system because it's not a necessity in our culture or in our society. So this leads to an understanding that phys ed really isn't as important as other classes. It's not as much of a necessity as other classes are. And that leads to the mindset and the mental barriers that phys ed isn't important. So what's the solution to all this? What can you do as a phys ed teacher against these barriers put on you from society. One is to speak with the principal and other teachers in your school and make sure everyone's on the same page. Then that's a lot of positive influence to phys ed class. The second one is expectations, and that is that other teachers all share the same expectations that the phys ed teacher does, or kind of explain the benefits of exercise in other settings from phys ed class. Could make a big difference. And the last thing is the support that our gym teachers need. If everyone showed support to the phys ed system, the phys ed teachers, everyone kind of took it seriously. They kind of supported the same values and rules that the gym teacher was trying to encourage in the gym class, which is really just a matter of being respectful. Then that could work towards eliminating a lot of barriers that students face for phys ed class. So those are the biggest barriers that I believe students face when it comes to physical activity in phys ed class, how much they participate, and whether they're going to show up at all. When students are free of those barriers, I believe students will have a better time in gym class, enjoy it, and take the classes seriously. The aim is for the students to have more positive physical experiences than negative, because that can influence how much they want to participate in the future and how open-minded they're going to be to try new things. This can help them grow as a person, not just physically, but also mentally. Not only is phys ed class important and encouraged for students, it's actually needed for students so they can learn about their bodies, how their bodies work, how to feed them and put fuel into them, and learn the necessary tools that they need to take with them and live a long, healthy life. This concludes my presentation on barriers that students might have towards the phys ed class. Thanks for watching.